Welcome to Royal Legacy, where we will explore the rich athletic history and deep family connections of BYU sports. Join us as we honor the past, celebrate the present, and look forward to the future of the BYU Cougars. Here's your host, Lauren McLean.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Lauren McLean, and welcome to Royal Legacy, where we dive deep into the family connections of BYU sports. This week, we're revisiting a past episode of another BYU Sports Podcast, Legends of '84, a deep dive into the 1984 championship season. Thanks for listening, and Royal Legacy will be back soon with a new episode.
This is Legends of '84, the story of BYU's remarkable national championship football team, told by the men who changed the world of college football and were forever transformed by that unforgettable season.
We knew we were going to be good. How good? Nobody knows.
I just never thought we'd lose. In each game that we won, we got more and more confident.
But once we played next to each other, we protected one another.
If you're not willing to prepare, then you're not going to be ready to win.
We are a peculiar people. We need to embrace that.
Brigham Young University has won the Holiday Bowl 24-17, and the Cougars are the only undefeated team in the nation. And I think they'll be number one.
Okay, BYU kicking off to Hawaii. Hawaii's had a great deal of difficulty so far this year generating any offense. Through the years, they've had good running games, and they just haven't done anything with their running game. In fact, on offense, Hawaii is averaging only 50 yards a game rushing.
That's not their game, too.
I was born in a little city called White City, which is in Sandy, Utah. Dad was a firefighter. I'm not going to tell you we grew up rich. We grew up taking care of what we had to do and making things work. This is David Mills, tight end.
Bosco rolling out, looking downfield, throws it back to the right. They set up the screen and is caught by Mills. 40-35, down to the 30, back inside to the 25, to the 20. It's a foot race, down to the 10. He's going to score, and I don't see a flag.
What a play by David Mills. He outran about 5-6 guys.
Probably the greatest lesson my dad ever gave me was he bought me a motorcycle. And he said, look, you got two choices. You can either learn how to fix it or you can get a job. I learned how to use duct tape and baling wire and a lot of things to fix a bike because I was busy doing sports and couldn't really do a job. Learn how to do stuff is what my dad taught me. To this day, my kids will give me a hard time because they call me the King Jerry Rigger because I can put things together out of nothing. Coming out of high school, I was a three-sport athlete. I was in love with basketball, played on a lot of travel basketball teams, did a lot of stuff like that. But my high school basketball coach was smart enough to pull me aside one day and go, hey, you're a 6'3" power forward. You don't have a real long life, whereas a 6'3" tight end, you have options. Out of all the schools back then, the Pac-12 schools, I got sniffs from about 5 of those. All the in-state schools, Utah State, Weber State, BYU, and really my final two choices came down to BYU or Stanford. To tell you the truth, I was probably on my way to Stanford until my dad had a conversation with me one weekend and it changed the way I thought about stuff. He kind of looked at me and says, look, I don't care where you go play. It'd sure be able to be nice to see you play every weekend. That swayed my opinion at the time. Being close to family is a big deal. And I ended up, at BYU.
Important that BYU solidifies their number 4 ranking early here, so they make believers out of Hawaii. Right now, Hawaii's going to go out. They let the game slip away from them. Then that number 4 ranking, all the prestige of it kind of disappears, and now it's an equal match. So it's important that BYU establishes that number 4 ranking.
I'm not going to tell you it was always pleasant at BYU. I didn't always follow rules. If you caught me and I broke a rule, I wasn't one of those, hey, not my fault. Like, yeah, okay, what are we going to do about it? Let's go. And accepting responsibility and moving on. It was nice to be in a culture that had expectations and had some rules for you and then allowed you to make choices. And if you made a bad choice, okay, there was something that came with that. If you look at my career, 82, I sat out because I made a bunch of bad choices. I got kicked out really simply because I was so smart, I was stupid. And by that, I mean not going to classes, not doing things. So the academic side came up and bit me in the butt, which is ironic because later on I became a high school teacher. Keep in mind that when I was being recruited, it would have been 79. He'd only been the head coach there for 4 or 5 years. The Lavell that everybody kind of sits back and, when Hall of Fame coach and all the things that happened, I kind of showed up early when he was still trying to figure all that stuff out, trying to get teams to play and trying to get teams to do things. When I first met him, it's like talking to your grandpa. He was not a guy that was impressed with anything you did athletically. He was a guy that was more impressed with your potential and who you were as a person. And his idea was, if I get quality people, well, they're going to probably end up being quality athletes too. In 81, we were playing Long Beach State, and the way it was going was Gordon would play the first quarter, I had the second quarter, Gordon was going to get the third quarter, I had the fourth quarter, so it was back and forth, back and forth. And in my quarter, I made a catch, which I would tell you was a tough catch behind me. Guy hit as soon as I made it, went forward into it. The catch didn't count because we had an offensive holding. So later on, probably in the mid part of the quarter, Jim scrambling, kind of scrambles to his right, throws a ball out to me, which I should have caught. Hits me right in the hands and I drop it. And from that point on, that was the escalation of Gordon and the flatlining of me. And I never forgot that. I never forgot that I dropped the ball that I should have caught. I vowed that I would never drop a ball again. And I know that sounds really corny coming out of there, but there were 73 balls that hit my hands in 1984. I caught 71 of them. And one of the ones I dropped, well, was actually the first play Robbie came back after his injury in the Holiday Bowl. So timing was off a little bit. I turned a little slow and he threw it out a little quick and it hit my hands and I dropped it. So I dropped one in my last game and I dropped one in my fourth game. Outside of that, if it touched my hands, it wasn't going anywhere.
That's 2 passes the Cougars have dropped, and you just don't see that very much.
Not really, and it's a catchable pass, especially by BYU's terms. And we talked about that horrible drop list at the end of the game that those guys really don't want to be on, and that's one of those things that really spurs those receivers not to get on that drop list.
In my time there, I played with 3 very different personalities: Jim McMahon, Steve Young, and Robbie Bosco. Jim McMahon was the kind of guy that everybody followed. He was a great leader. Steve was more follow me, I'm going to get it done type leadership. Robbie was not very vocal. I think one of the keys that Robbie kind of had, and was you almost felt like you had to protect him. He was kind of like your little brother. You didn't want anybody else saying anything bad against your little brother, so you had to do a lot of things to protect him. He knew that we were a bunch of big brothers to him and we would take care of him. You've heard a ton of stories about how he started out in Pittsburgh and it just was horrible. He was so worried about everything else into it. Well, I can remember on the sideline and Robbie's there, Roger French is there. Roger's getting in my face because we can't run the ball. And I looked at him and like, that's Chris Dolman over there. I didn't come here to run the ball. Can we start throwing the ball again? And Robbie just kind of like, yeah, can we? Can we? This is somewhere in the second quarter, but it was like, let's get back to being us. I mean, I'm tired of trying to do these other things. And yeah, we started out horrible, but let us grow and let us learn and let us move on. And that was the way Robbie was. He was just, okay, let's do this, and just kind of the support piece to it.
Back is Bosco. Bosco over the middle, wide open. Here is the tight end, and it's grabbed by David Mills. Up over the middle for a first down.
I'll never forget, we were in spring ball of going into 84, and Kaz was being Kaz. He was letting everybody know how he was the man. He was this, he was that. He could do anything. He could do a lot of stuff. And then he started getting on Robbie, that Robbie wasn't throwing him the ball enough. And he was really getting on Robbie in spring ball, and Robbie was nervous about it. I just looked at him and said, dude, quit throwing him the ball. Well, what do you mean? He'll about get mad. Right. But if he doesn't have the ball, what's he going to do? So the entire spring practice the next day, I think he had to throw him one ball because we did a goal line thing. But Robbie would sit in the pocket and look at anybody else and throw it to anybody but Kaz. Robbie tells a story that Norm is like, what are you doing? He's like, just trying to help Kaz grow up a little bit. And Norm's like, okay. And just let us go. Just let us go. That's the way things were. That was Robbie's leadership. Give and take a little bit. When he needed you to do something, he would tell you. He listened to a lot of receivers and everybody else that was always open, that always wanted the ball more. And so he had to filter in a lot of information and disseminate it in a way that allowed us to be successful and allowed him to be successful as a quarterback. That was his leadership style. Air Force was a pretty good team at that time. The way they ran their flexbone option, they were very, very good. So it was kind of a way for us to kind of be in the spotlight and shine. We're in the locker room, and all of a sudden it's time for the national anthem to be sung. Supposedly, it was Willie Nelson out there singing the national anthem. Lavell is a big Willie Nelson fan. So here's your head coach getting ready to give you a big pep talk. And all of a sudden, he's standing on a bench trying to look out windows because he wants to see one of his favorite country idols singing the national anthem. And it was just one of those So the game's really not that important, Lavell? He's like, didn't say that. I just wanted to see Willie. Now let's go play ball.
There's a pass to Mills. I don't know if Mills made the first down or not. He caught the ball awfully close to the 45-yard line. The crowd doesn't like where they're marking it off.
I'm going to be honest, we were disappointed that we're playing Michigan. We were hoping that the WAC at that time would have let us out of the Holiday Bowl to go play in the Orange Bowl. We were hoping Washington and or Oklahoma would give up some money and come play us. None of that ever worked out. So we're going to play a bowl game before everybody else gets to, and we're trying to fight for the national title. Did we feel like we had to play extremely well to impress everybody? Yeah, we felt that pressure. Did we play that well? No. Offensively, we had, 5 turnovers, including getting the quarterback hurt. You'll never see it on film unless there's a broad angle of the film that's showing everything to it. You'll actually see me holding on to Kaz's shoulder pads. Kaz was so confident in himself that he was going to be our quarterback. He wanted to play quarterback. He was going to come up and do this. He was going to do that. Calm down, man. This is what we got right now, okay? This is what we have. Let's go play. All right, fine. I knew it was my last college game, so there was something that was sitting there with those emotions, those churning, coming into the game. My in-laws, my family, everybody that I was related to was in the stadium. It was a culmination of 5 years of work and roller coasters up and down. I remember one of the coolest stories that Lewis told me about the Holiday Bowl was the game's all over, everybody's celebrating, right? Lou thought about things different. And what he did is he was off on his own, he took a knee, and he just sat down and just looked at it all and just took it all in. And you sit down and you think about it, would you rather be part of the crazy mob or would you rather be that person observing everything? And I would rather have been part of the standing over there with Lewis just watching it all happen. I'm appreciative of the fact that I went through the Mormon culture. I'm appreciative of the fact that family's a big deal. I'm appreciative of the fact of the religious and the faithful side to it. I'm very comfortable with the fact that one day when I stand in front of our Maker, that as He judges my life, I'll take accountability for what I did and didn't do. But I believe that I've done a pretty good job of trying to take the lessons that guys like Lavell and everybody else have taught me to try and make the world a better place, try and make people's lives a little better.
With another high kick. Oh, what a hit. Jump, not going anywhere with that one. Oh, it's Fitisemanu. What a jump.
I grew up in Metheva Beach, Hawaii, until the fateful day. Dad came home and says, you know what, I'm not feeling too good as far as my health. The doctor says I need a milder climate in Hawaii. So he says we're moving back to Samoa. I was crushed. Alema Fitisemanu, linebacker. I was going to proms, I was going to dances and getting ready to date, you know. And when you go to Samoa, it's a little bit different story over there. There's no dating and there's no of these great activities that they have here in the United States. I was bummed. And then when I moved to Samoa, Dad says, well, not only are we moving you to Samoa, now your new chore is a 60-acre plantation. And that's what I did. I did that before school, after school, and on Saturdays. My parents were married in Temple there in New Zealand. And I just grew up as an LDS kid in Hawaii. I think in every LDS community, they grew up with a chip on their shoulder because they've been persecuted. And that's the same way that happened in Samoa. There were lots of churches there, but the LDS church got persecuted a lot. But at the same time, there's so much faith and stories of families that have sacrificed to give their families a better life as far as understanding the gospel and how it can work in your life.
Third down and 8 for Hawaii. Cherry back to throw. Shazan throws it over the middle, tipped in the air and intercepted by Kyle Morrell. And the defensive backs are taught to do just that. Look for that ball.
I was playing football in Hawaii and excited for a football career. I was a University of Hawaii Rainbow fan and went to all their practices. So I thought I was going to be a Rainbow. So when I went to Samoa, my hopes were dashed. There's no way I'm leaving this 60-acre plantation. This is how I provide for my family and all that kind of stuff, right? I'm thinking that's the end of everything. In fact, we built this little faleo, a small Samoan fale, a little house, a little shack. We built it there so that in case we worked too late into the night or we got tired, we didn't have to go home. We just stayed there and slept overnight and then kept on working the next day. So I'm sleeping there. I'm looking through the thatch roof and I'm looking at the stars, right? And I'm going, man, Heavenly Father, is this all you have in store for me? You know, is this it? It's going to be this plantation. And I was bummed. I was kind of broken when the move happened, but I decided there in that faleo that, you know what? No matter what, I'm just going to be faithful. My attitude when I went to Samoa was a pretty bad attitude. I did everything Mom and Dad wanted to do. I just wanted to show them how mad I was and how you're persecuting me. But I obey them. I'm very respectful. But I always have the scowl on my face when I'm doing stuff. But it was that night that I decided, you know what? That's not how they taught me. So I decided I'm just going to be faithful. So in that faleo, I felt a power that if I decided to be faithful, then Heavenly Father's going to strengthen me to get through this, whatever I'm going through, right? Not quite understanding everything, but just knowing that good things are going to come. He knows He can create all the great blessings. I don't even know what's in store. And 1 year later, I'm running down on kickoffs in Lavell Edwards Stadium. I worked out all the time. There's no way I could have come to BYU and not go through that plantation. I was lifting heavy sacks. I was working all day, planting taro, planting pasio, and some of these other crops that we were growing there, you know. But man, when I got my shot, somebody saw me playing basketball and said, hey, you're a pretty good basketball player. Why don't you come to American Samoan and play football over there? And I said, okay, let me ask my parents. My parents didn't want me to go. They said, no, we want to raise you. We want you here as long as you're going to be here till you graduate and then you go. It would require me to move to another island and play football. Mom finally said yes, but you're going to have to come home every weekend so I can see you. I agreed to that. And so every Saturday morning after the game, caught the ferry, 8 hours to Apia, where I lived. I was 17. So 8 hours all the way there, get there Saturday, work the plantation, make the umu, which is the meal for the family on Sunday, and then in the afternoon catch the ferry back overnight and then be in school Monday morning. That was my commitment to Mom, that I had to be home. And on those ferries, the children and the women take all the seats. So us young boys, they don't really care where we go. So we went all the way to the top. There were no seats up there. And there was this ledge and a railing. And so we would tie ourselves to the railing because we'd fall asleep just so that we wouldn't fall over and fall into the ocean while we were falling asleep. And that's how we would travel, us boys, you know. There's a few of us that kind of did that and went back and forth on the weekends.
Well, BYU doesn't want to give up that lead. They're not giving it up easily. I don't know if he made it that time. We had a BYU linebacker go right over the top and hit him. Or maybe Kyle Morrell come right over the top.
I'm playing really well. And my film got out to Coach Edwards. He was the one that started the Polynesian pipeline that people talk about today. It really was Edwards. He was the first one to come to the South Pacific. There were many that went to Hawaii, but no one came to the South Pacific. I don't know if you know statistics and all that kind of stuff about finding a football player from American Samoa. It's kind of like the comparison of a baseball player to Cuba or something like that. But if you want to find a football player, you go to American Samoa. And that's where you get all your big linemen, 300-plus guys. University of Utah knows the deal, too. They're down there a lot, too. But Lavell was first. And there's no way I could have caught Coach Edwards' eye if I hadn't been on that plantation. And I didn't lift any weights. Push-ups, sit-ups, working the plantation, that's all I was doing. So when I came to American Samoa, I beat up a lot of guys. I was just strong as heck. So there's no one that could oppose me, I felt, you know. But it was that confidence and all the reps I was taking there in the plantation. There's all these amazing things that were happening, you know, the moment that I decided to be faithful. My film gets out to BYU, and then for Coach Edwards to come, it was just a miracle in my mind. There's no reason why he would come, except for him to decide, okay, this was the year, 1984, I'm going to go to American Samoa. because they didn't have big recruiting budgets back then. It was a big deal for him to come over. And then when he came, American Samoa almost had a parade for him. They just made it a really big deal that he did this and broke the ice on coaches coming to American Samoa. Now, these days, where Lavell came by himself, these days you got Oklahoma, you got Nebraska. And when they come to a game there in American Samoa, their rental cars fill the stadium parking lot. What he started was an amazing thing. And people in the church and outside the church all know that when Lavell came that one time, he just made everybody say, oh, we're going to have to make this trip to American Samoa to find our players.
He fumbled the football, and I think BYU has it. The Cougars.
BYU, it just blew me away. I was just floored, kind of intimidated to go to class with all these smart people. And I've come from a plantation, man. How am I going to understand all this stuff? But lots of great mentors, lots of great people who coached us through picking classes and setting up our schedules so that we can do both football and have a life outside of it as well. We easily found friends. There's other Polynesian guys there, of course, but even our incoming class in '84, we had some really good players. Andy Boyce was one of my good friends, and Kirk Hawley, and some of these guys that were from Utah. Just instant friends forever. That's just how football teams are. Then we go to practice. We're trying to see the culture of the team, right? And there's these seniors. They just practice at a different level that I thought, I don't know how good we're going to be, but these guys seem really good. They're the strongest guys I've ever seen and the tallest guys I've ever seen. And we have to go one-on-one with some of these guys. I found out quick how to make Lavell and Coach Roger French really happy is beating his O-lineman in a pass rush drill. And then I become a favorite. And so when I could do that once in a while, those coaches get really excited. So I was able to make a name for myself as a freshman, being scout team, and then helping them get better. Believe it or not, my parents didn't watch me play any of my games. They didn't have TV down there in American Samoa. They would get a video here and there, and that was it. But my favorite play was just running down on kickoff, first kickoff for Baylor. And Baylor had these huge linemen that were part of the wedge. They always create a wedge and a running back right behind to bring the ball up. It would be on the right side or the left side, where they would run the ball that way, create a hole, and try to score that way. What I was able to do was just to go through one of the guys. They called us the wedge busters. And so we would just run down, break the wedge, and then breaking the wedge, come down and hit the running back and stop him for a loss or for a very small gain. That's what we did. I broke the wedge. I went down, was part of the tackle. So that's the thing that I remember most. It's the loudest crowd I've ever heard. My ears are ringing from the time I leave the locker room to come warm up till we kick off. I mean, that kickoff is amazing. That crowd just gets so loud, but it's the loudest crowd. People say University of Utah is the loudest, but it's not even close. My ears ring only at Cougar Stadium. Although I worked at University of Utah coaching football there, my ears never rang at Utah, only at Lavell Edwards Stadium. I always knew I was going to serve a mission, but I didn't want to go right after the 84 season. I was going, man, I'm loving this. I want to do this again. And Dad was our stake president, right? Dad was, well, son, you probably should just go now. I said, Dad, no, let me do, I promise. Let me do one more season, and then I'll go on a mission. And so played the 85 season. That defense is another story, too. That was probably one of the baddest defenses back then. But season's over. Dad goes, okay, son, you're going to go on a mission? I goes, let me take it to the Lord. I'm working construction, and I'm breaking ice at this construction site. This is probably in February or something like that. I hadn't really asked Heavenly Father yet whether I should go on a mission. Sure, I heard the commandment from the prophet, every young man should go on a mission. Maybe he meant all these other guys should go, and maybe this is my mission. I'm going to go play another year of football. So finally, while I was breaking ice, I said, okay, I'm just going to ask, Heavenly Father, you want me to go on a mission? And then I just felt this warmth of how much Heavenly Father loves me. It's a cold day, but I'm feeling this feeling. And really it was like light. It was light answers to things that what I should do right now for my life. Serve a mission. You need the reps. You don't know enough to be able to bless people. So you gotta go on your mission. I mean, this is my understanding of what he's saying to me. And so I'm crying all day, all teary-eyed, breaking ice on a construction site. At the end of the day, I was just really excited to meet with my bishop and get things right and start putting my papers in, And of course, calling my dad, he was very happy. I'm coming to these conclusions on my own. Parents, they worry about us, right? And they want us to not necessarily come to the right conclusion, but come to an understanding of what Heavenly Father wants you to do, You got to ask. I'm glad I took that opportunity to start really building my relationship with our Heavenly Father. God's got me. He's creating all these great blessings for me. I have no idea what's going to happen. I think the lesson that I've learned from that is you want to be prepared for any blessing that comes through, even the ones you can't even dream of or think about that's possible. Heavenly Father wants you to keep His commandments, love people, and that allows you to have an open mind to do the things that warrant some blessings. And so that's why I think that 84 team is just another confirmation that Heavenly Father answers prayers. He knows exactly what I need at whatever time that I need. It was testimony strengthening my whole experience at BYU, my whole experience. My path to BYU had to go through a plantation that no one dreamed of. Heavenly Father sent us here for a purpose. He wants us to develop, and what we think the training program to develop is, He's got surprises in store for everyone. And if we're willing, we'll be able to be taught and then receive blessing we can't even imagine. My whole life has been a life of, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how to make things right. If we can just respond with some faith, just respond faithfully, and just treating our relationship with Jesus Christ like a real relationship. I just want to make sure that at the end of the day, does Christ know that I love Him?
Coming up next episode.
One of the past great quarterbacks from the University of Utah said, I'm really jealous of what you guys have down there at BYU. He could sense that there was this extra brotherhood that binded us together that he didn't feel in the locker room up at the U and with his past teammates.
When we first got to the stadium, they were cussing at us way up. That's a big stadium. News people were putting us down like we were just a high school team. People really just didn't have much expectation. Well, they found out.
Thank you for listening to Legends of 84. This podcast series was produced by Eric Michael Robertson and Scott Christofferson, with Bree Ray Alpew as associate producer. Music by Stuart Maxfield and Eric Michael Robertson. Legends of 84 is a production of BYU Radio.